Got a howling great wind this morning. This is Thursday morning. Glad I used my extra strong anchor rope there. That's about 3 times the diameter of the stuff I've been using in the gentler weather. And it's holding just fine. We're not going anywhere. As I can see by the shore, I've got the engine all prepped up just in case something happens. Weakest link in the chain and all that stuff. But we're just going to sit tight here, have a cup of coffee and wait for this all to blow over. As last night, there was just much more wind here than anywhere else at the time, so I'm not worried about the whole day being like this or everything else being really stormy. This seems to be just a local thing for Narvaez Bay, where the wind comes channeling through that valley and blasts right through here. More later. My 2 friends are back this morning checking out the place again. They haven't quite decided if they're going to move in or not. Thursday morning, about 11:30, leaving Narvaez Bay. We had those gusty winds coming and going from the northwest all morning, so I kind of just stayed put for a bit. Now we've settled on a nice steady southeasterly, which is great for where we're going. So I pulled anchor and we're off. So we're going to go past Boiling Reef. It's a hazardous spot, so I'm going to give it a wide berth. It's where a couple of currents converge. There's some shallow water there which causes whirlpools and riptides and things. It's also where the orcas hang out. It's where there's disturbed water. There's the seals and sea lions, which are prime orca food. So perhaps we'll even see some orcas today. You never know. But I'm going to stay well clear of that until I get inside the sheltered waters between Tumbo Island and Penda. So this is Fiddler's Cove, where I wanted to anchor last night. It's just too small. When there's a big wind, you need to put out lots of rope. So there's a small angle between your anchor and the boat that keeps you snugly on the bottom in a big blow. And of course, with the more rope, the more you're going to swing around, so you need a bigger space to do that kind of anchoring. But it's a beautiful little spot here. We've got cliffs, we've got a bald eagle in the tree over there, big beach, stone beach, but hey, that's BC for you. The map doesn't show any roads or trails coming down here. It's part of the park system. It does show a little creek somewhere up there. Could be a good spot for a freshwater wash. So one day in the sultry days of summer, when we're guaranteed little or no wind, I may come here and anchor just right there. Okay, goodbye Fiddler's Cove. Arbutus trees up there, old fir trees, no doubt all kinds of wildlife when your engine's not running, scaring it away. Alright, onward. Getting on for noon Thursday, just leaving Narvaez Bay. And after all that bluster and wind and bouncing around all night, and this morning we finally get out here and it's pretty calm. I'm barely moving here again. But I guess we'll just see how the day comes. It seems to be the winds just change all the time. You never know what's coming next. Keeps it interesting. Mount Baker straight ahead there. I'll probably power on and just turn the engine off when we start seeing a bit of wind. A lot of nice properties along here. This is the long eastern arm of Saturna Island that points into the Gulf of Georgia. Mainland Vancouver across that way. Bald eagle up there. That's a pretty fancy property. No beach access. I don't even see any paths or steps down to the rocks there, but you could swim off those rocks. Probably all kinds of stuff living in the water right by that. Saturna is the least populated Gulf island. I think it's only 500 full-time residents. Property values are low. It's at the end of the ferry line, so hard to get to. You have to change ferries 2 times sometimes, so there is the occasional direct one. My GPS is showing me going 7 knots here, and I've only got the engine on 2200 revs. A lot of that is just the current, so we can understand why the current mixing on this side with the current on the other side is going to cause some turmoil here. So I'm going to go way out, get away from all that stuff. I think that's the fastest I've ever gone, 7 knots. If I kicked up the engine, could probably do an 8 or 9, but we don't want to do that. So that's Boiling Reef, the reef you can see there. That's where all the seals and sea lions live. I think I can see some from here even, maybe those are cormorants. Just rounding Saturna here. That's East Point, that's the old lighthouse foghorn. And there's Boiling Reef. I'm actually doing 7 knots here, just rocketing along. You can see by how fast we're passing the point there. Way up and around. That's I can see where they're breaking waves out there. I need to get way around all that stuff too. And on the far side there, that's Tumbo Island. We'll be getting to know that over the next day. So this is just east of Boiling Reef. And you can see some waves there and hear it. That's where the 2 currents are meeting. I'm going to try and stay away from that. Just keep on sort of running parallel to it. At some point there'll be a lot less wave action there. I can't tell from here how big those waves are as the 2 currents meet. So once again we're going to exercise the better part of valor, which is prudence if you don't know that saying. The current's still pushing me along here. At least the wind's good. I can always just chicken out and just head downwind and use the engine. Well, that's the first time I've been really anxious on this boat. I've just totally unfamiliar with stuff like that. We've got this huge current here pushing me along at 7 knots, though I was barely even sailing, and we've got these waves crashing all the way down there for miles, even though there are no rocks. The water's hundreds of feet deep there. The only rock is the reef over there. And just those waves and the current pushing me into them. When you got 2 intersecting currents like that, the waves can be short and steep and pretty nasty. So I am just going to stay away from that. We're kind of approaching the middle of the tide when the tides are the strongest, so I'm going to hang back over here where it's nice and there's no wind and nice and safe, and then I'll make the run at the top of the tide, the next slack water. Well, I'll just come out here when those waves have gone, then I'll go. But I'm not going when all that is happening. That would be insanity. There's no hurry, it's only 1 o'clock, something like that. Alright, more later. Change of plans. I'm going to try and shoot the gap here. I've now got East Point and Boiling Reef on the left, Tumbo Island on the right. If I can just get through the middle there, I should hit much calmer waters once I'm outside the water that's coming that way. And all those big waves are kind of back there. They weren't really a threat to me, I don't think. So we're just going to keep going, and I think we'll hit some much calmer water once we get out of that current. I'm sailing and powering too, doing about 4 knots. Motor sailing. More later. Nope, chicken out again. I'm getting into these waves here, not really making good headway against the current, so I'm just going to fall off this way and just wait a couple of hours. I thought I'd be outside where all this rough stuff is and the white caps and the waves, but I'm not, so we'll just take it easy for now, play it safe. So that's Cabbage Island in the US over there. I can understand now why that couple Their boat got wrecked there. I think they both died. One of them died. I think the wife died. Maybe they both died. Well, for one thing, they were sailing at night in like February, something like that. If they got caught in a current like this, and they were already cold and tired, and it was windy, and just the waves fighting each other, the current going in different directions from the waves made by the wind, they would have been in a hell of a lot of trouble. They shouldn't have been out here at all. This is a fine, almost June day here. There's barely any wind, and I have time to think and observe and take alternative action. They would have been in the dark and slamming about in the waves and cold and wet. It would have been utterly miserable. Well, I did a silly thing here. While taking down the jib, I let go of the halyard and it slipped through its block. If you see those 3 wires sloping to the right, the middle one, the block hanging from that, is where that rope has to get back through. Now I have this rat rigging here, but there's one step missing, and I cannot get that high without that step. It's really hard to step from one to the other. I've tried that before. So what I'm going to do is jury rig snubber. I'm going to jury rig my snubber as the extra ladder step there, the missing ladder step, and then hopefully I can thread my halyard back through that block, because this boat does not sail very well without the jib. She needs the balance of jib and foresail against the mainsail. Okay, well that's the plan. We'll see how it goes. Okay, there's the jury rigged step, and we're gonna give her a try. Okay, there we are, job done. Those are the 2 ends of it. I did this with one of the gaff throat halyard back when I first had the boat. So what I did was I tied a knot with about 4 feet of rope on the other side of it, so if it ever went up there again, it would the knot would stop it at the block, and there'd be enough rope hanging down that I could just go part way up the rat lines there, grab the end of the rope and pull it down again. And I'd done that with the jib halyard and the staysail halyard too, but then I changed the lines to this polyester stuff so I could get a better grip trying to tighten it up, which didn't even work in the end, and I just didn't bother putting the knot in the line. So first thing I'm going to do now is put a knot in this line, maybe 6 feet up, and if that ever happens again, it'll be a simple job just to climb the first few steps, grab the end of the rope and pull it back down again. We live and we learn. Okay, just after 4 o'clock, and as if that wasn't enough excitement for one day, let's go and do Boiling Reef once more. It's the tide changes at 6 p.m. so there'll be a lot less current in that last hour. By the time I've got out of here and got over there, I'll know what the currents are doing, and we'll try her again. I've got great faith in my little boat here, and great faith in the engine. Never had a problem there. Always starts, always runs without a hitch. It's only 4 o'clock, still hot, not a lot of wind, so I'll probably just leave the sails on so that they're there if I do need them for any reason, but I won't actually put them up until I'm through the passage. I don't want to be worrying about sails flapping about or having a headwind as I'm tackling passages and currents and who knows what. Just being cautious. Alright, more later. We're about at the spot where last time I was doing 7 knots with the engine on 4200 revs. Engine on 4200 revs, this time we're doing 4.3 knots. So that's a whole heck of a lot less tide, 2.7 knots less tidal current. That's going to make a real difference when we get around the corner here. And once again, East Point with the lighthouse foghorn. You can just make out Boiling Reef there. There's a shelf between the point and Boiling Reef, which is only about 17 feet deep. So any kind of water going over that is going to be very, very disturbed. So I'm going to go around Boiling Reef. That long line of waves we saw earlier, that's no longer there. I guess what that was the outgoing tide meeting the waves generated by the strong winds last night. Not strong winds, but you know, 10-15 knots. So those waves coming south and this current going northeast and just colliding, and it looked like waves crashing on a beach, even though the water was several hundred feet deep there. But we're in a much better situation now. I'm doing 5.5 knots last time I looked, so a little bit of current still, but nothing like we had before, and no scary tsunami coming at me across the horizon. More later. And there's the infamous Boiling Reef with East Point Park in the background. I think I see some seals on the reef there on the left, kind of look like big sacks of cement just kind of lying there. But we're doing this at the right time of the tide, I'll know in the future. Nothing too scary so far. The water's kind of green on this side. I guess that's from being churned up, or maybe it's the water coming out of the Fraser River from way over that way. Alright. We should see some calmer water once we get inside this channel here between Saturna and Tumbo Island. As I thought, the wind's right in my teeth here. So I made the right decision leaving the sails down. I wouldn't want to be tacking back and forth with a current against me. I'd be getting nowhere. We just need to get into protected waters in the channel here, away from these currents out here in the strait. Cliffs on the south side of Tumbo Island. That's all park. The whole island, never been logged, I don't think. No one lives there. Access by boat only. There is a beach on the eastern end there, and the lagoon where we're going has a lot of beach too, I think, as well as Cabbage Island, which I've been looking forward to seeing for a long, long time. You can see how dry the moss is already. It's only the end of May and everything's dried up and brown. That's probably fairly normal. The Gulf Islands are even drier than Victoria. Looking straight ahead, I think we're looking at Salt Spring Island there, the short one. No, that's Galliano. I do believe the steepest island there, right in the middle of the frame. I think so. Arbutus trees and an eagle. The arbutus trees just love being on the edges of cliffs. All this paradise just 20-30 miles from Victoria. Amazing. Maybe 30-40, alright. This is the end of Tumbo Island, the western end. Looking back down the channel the way we came. And I'll stay in the deeper water and make my right turn just up here. Our little lagoon will be on the other side. Be a first for me, probably a first for most people. And here we are rounding Tumbo Island, and Cabbage Island is on the left hand side there. I think it's okay, I better pay attention to my navigation here. So here we are moored to the buoy in the lagoon between Tumbo Island on the right and Cabbage Island here right behind me. That's a little gem. It's got a beautiful powdery sand beach and some natural old tree growth. It used to be a spot for kayakers to camp on during their journeys and people to walk around, but they've just last year put it off limits to the public for ecological and cultural reasons, so I assume something to do with First Nations. You can go ashore, or you have to go ashore to pay the moorage fee for the buoy. It's $24 a night, but at least I know I'm secure here. I won't be dragging anchor in the soft mud. It's very shallow, only 6 feet deep here. Probably eelgrass on the bottom, not the best stuff for an anchor. And I'll have to go ashore to pay my fee, so perhaps I'll just have a little detour around, have a little quick look. I'm sure everyone does. I mean, I'm not going to break anything, damage anything, steal anything. I'll just take some pictures and leave some footprints. Alright, look where we are. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mooring buoys. I would hate to see it here when they're all busy. That is too much. Maybe I can go ashore on, well, there's an otter right there. Go ashore on Tumbo Island. Is that an otter or a freaking anaconda? I guess it's an otter. We don't have anacondas here. Something else over there. I don't have my glasses on. Yeah, bound to be some access to Tumbo Island somewhere out there. Okay, more when we're ashore. That's the next stop, is to pay my fees and have a look around. I kind of resent that there's no explanation whatsoever. There's nothing online. There's no reason given. There's no describing what wrong was done that needs to be righted, or couldn't have been righted some other way. There's no description of people vandalizing it, or burning it down, or taking things off it, or illegally hunting, or anything at all. Just, it's closed. That's it. Suck it up. Well, I resent that. Parks Canada, Gulf Islands National Park Reserve, I mean. And I will contact them. Just tell us why, that's all. If we know why, we might actually agree with you and not just be pissed off at you. Thank you. Here's a view from the shore, a beautiful beach. Birds chirping, peace and quiet. Just a really nice place, nice beach. Covered in seashells and driftwood. But we're only allowed a short visit, unfortunately. I wonder who blew it, who caused the harm, or is it just a First Nations claim just based on justifiable grievance? If that's the case, I'd like to know that too. This is a midden here, basically just a pile of discarded seashells, shellfish, harvested over centuries. Sometimes they go back thousands of years.